Welcome to the Chic'Ology podcast, where we dive into opinionated and informative conversations with your hosts, Anita J and Tiffany Renea.
And in today's conversation...
Wait. Can I just play a little song for you right quick?
No, girl, you know about to serenade me and we're trying to record a podcast.
Come on. I just want to
play a song. You could play a song before we start recording.
No, not before we record. I mean, just be open-minded. Just go with it.
Let me see what you know. Girl, what you about to play? Let me see. What you about to play?
Okay, here we go. DJ Tiff in the house.
So, people in Peter Land, they don't never want to grow old. Today's topic is not people want to grow old.
No!
What is today's topic then? What thing I do? Remember, what thing I do with you playing me a song about what? Like I'm lost.
Okay, so you said we don't want to grow old, right?
Right.
We always say the adulthood is so ghetto, it's hard.
Life, okay.
Yeah, okay, so I think we should just, talk about the nevers of life today.
Okay, I mean, okay. So what made you come? Okay, the song does never. Okay, I'm gonna give you credit. I'm gonna give you credit.
Life, we like it.
And we okay,
never land, and then
okay, all right. So that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, today's topic will be the nevers of life.
Yeah,
I love it. That's a deep conversation. The nevers of life, man.
Yeah. So when I think of the nevers of life, it's that overwhelming feeling of anxiety, the weight that holds us down. Like, I'm never going to get a job. I'm never going to get promoted. I'm never going to get the car I want. I'm never going to have a baby. I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to this and that and all the things.
I'm never going to say I'm going back to school. I'm never going to have a third and fourth husband. I'm never going to have more kids. I'm never going to go outside without sunscreen. I'm never going to the ocean and dive in the middle. Yeah, that's a bunch of nevers.
I'm never getting on a submarine.
Yeah, never getting on a submarine.
Never. In real life.
Never doing that.
Yeah.
I'm never going to dock the boat of the day and start trying to fly with my clogs on,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of nevers.
Yeah, a lot of nevers of life. But in all seriousness, though, the nevers of life can just really weigh a person down.
Big facts.
And it can also be like preventing you from living your best life.
Absolutely, because the never of life will be things that stop you from proceeding to what you really should be at, or even trying to understand what God's will is for your life because you're so stuck on what you never wanted to do. And I can relate to that big time.
Yeah.
Can you relate to it?
I can, definitely. For me, a never a life that I would share in today's conversation would be never like getting stuck in a job or you're working for someone because you're like really pouring into their vision.
So is that like everyone, or are you saying people that are specifically an entrepreneur, or people that like corporation, like we say, never work for someone? How are you relate to
that is a good question. So if I was to reel that back in, I would say never get complacent in a job that is not fulfilling what you said, your purpose or your will, what you think God's will for your life. Because you can work for someone and it just may not be a good fit to stay with this company. So changing companies would be a better fit. And sometimes people get scared and they never like take those chances to go and work for a different company or
they call stepping out on faith.
Yes, they are afraid to step out on faith. But for us, it's entrepreneurship. So my perspective of that would be, I remember as a intern, when I graduated with my master's degree, they were like, oh, good, congratulations.
And what's your master's degree in?
Licensed professional counselor.
Okay.
So I have a master's in counseling, right? So in that, they were like, I thought I did my 500 hours for my master's program and I was good to go. After I got my degree, they said, oh, ma'am, you have to do 3,000 hours.
That's 3,000 hours.
I said, 600 hours.
3,000 hours?
3,000 hours before I could get licensed. So when I had to do that, I never thought I was going to get through that. And it was just constant and constant. And at that time, I was working for an individual and their focus was mostly like substance abuse. And as I kept journeying through that, I recognized that that wasn't a passion of mine. That is not where I felt like God wanted to use me in that. So
would you say the passion of yours wasn't the specialty that you were at that company with?
Yes.
Okay.
That specialty was not a good fit for me.
So it was not only the specialty of the company, but also the company that you worked for.
Right.
Okay.
It was
their morals or their
moral code. Like the environment wasn't really conducive to like my personality. Absolutely. Wasn't like room for growth, creativity. You know, I like a good laugh and make people feel at home. Absolutely. And just like even in sharing like hard stuff, and that environment just didn't do it for me. And so in that, I was like, I want to create a space where people of color can come and feel comfortable. And so I decided that I was going to like create my own practice. They didn't tell us how to do that in school.
But before you created your own practice, you had to stay with this person for 3,000 hours.
Yes.
And 3,000 hours are hours that you complete during the week. That's not like taking home homework and volunteer work.
No. But in other practices, they would let you do like some hours at home, like when you're like doing CEUs and things. But at this particular establishment, I could only count the hours that I was there, Monday to Friday.
If you don't mind me asking, how many months or days or years was 3,000 hours take you to accomplish?
The state says you cannot get it before 18 months.
Because you had to stay with this person that you did not want to be around in their business for 18 months to complete your hours.
Yes.
So for 18 months, you worked for this company.
I worked for this company for 18 months.
Okay, now we can proceed. Now I'm open. Okay, I'm trying to think like, girl, you should have just left, but you needed 3,000 hours.
I needed 3,000 hours. It was close to home. I was in that transitional phase. I had just left teaching. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to do this. Because in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to get it and I'm going to be done in a year. Only to find out that no, you cannot get those hours in a year. You can't get them before 18 months. So I had to stay and I gave up teaching so that I can focus on this. But I had to endure that for 18 months. So during those 18 months, I was getting overwhelmed and like, what am I going to do? And like the nerves of life just kept hitting me because I'm in a new space. And it's nothing. I'm comfortable with teaching. Absolutely. I did that thing for 7 years and I'm like, I was good at it. So
Teacher of the year, baby.
All the nerves just kept hitting me. And so then I was like, you know what? I'm going to create a space just for people of color. A space where I want to like be in control and understand like this is a place I want to get up and wake up every day to go to. So then I created, and it took me a while to like come up with everything, but I just remember as I was sitting and talking to people during that internship and they would tell me things, I started thinking like, what could I name my practice? And then I remember I taught first grade and we learned the life cycle of the butterfly.
Nice.
And so I was like, and butterflies are so beautiful and they come in all many colors and sizes. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to name my practice Butterfly Effect Counseling. And so I was like, okay, when people ask why, you say beautiful changes. Yes. I see it from a different perspective. Okay. So learning the life cycle of the butterfly, they have to like be the little pupa and then they go to a chrysalis and they're in this cocoon and they stay in this cocoon and like we even watched it. It looks like it has diamonds on the cocoon, like if you look really closely. And then you come back another day and then like all of a sudden there's like a butterfly flying around in the net and we're like, oh my gosh, but this one is still like in there. So we did an experiment where we cut one of the cocoons open, and so when it was time to release our butterflies, we noticed that the one that came out of the cocoon that we cut open didn't fly out immediately
because it was premature.
It was premature. Just like in therapy, you have to go through some things, struggle, and it's your cocoon in this office. And so sometimes we just want to get through life real fast. Like we want to be over this. Like, oh, I'm so over this right now. I just want this to be over. And you're rushing the process instead of really identifying how you navigate this world with the way you cognitively think, and then your behavioral changes. So that's what we teach in therapy, to be who you are, because nobody needs fixing. You just need to be aware of your cognitive distortions, how to recognize them when they're happening, and then kind of move forward with that. So that's kind of how my practice came to be.
That was an awesome Never of Life. Wow, I didn't even know that. I've known you for a while. Yeah. I knew about the practice name and going about, but I didn't recall the 3,000 hours and the dysfunctionality of the place. But okay, it makes sense. I mean, my Never of Life, I don't know. I don't want to say that it has to do with business at all. I would say my Never of Life, if that's the question for me, is I never wanted to be a single parent. I got married to my husband, who's the children of all three of my sons, 5 years after we were dating. So we were together. We had a son. I wasn't married when I had the first son, my oldest son. So we did get married 5 years after. And for me, growing up, I didn't come out of a two-parent home. My life story is a little more complicated than that. I actually was raised by my mother till I was 11, and then I went into foster care, and then I had a foster mother that raised me for the duration until I was 18, which she was kind of like family, but she dated and she got married, so it became a two-family home later. Mm-hmm. But prior to that, it wasn't a two-family home, so I knew that because I remember my mother, and when my mother got sick, I was 11 at that moment. I was a mature 11-year-old, so I understood that, like, oh wow, I see my dad, I've been around my dad, I hang out with my dad, but my parents don't live together. So I knew for me, I never wanted to be a single parent. But at that moment, it's like you ask yourself the nevers of life. I never want to be a parent, but does that mean you never want to be a single parent and not be happy in your marriage? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I felt like I kind of took that as, man, I'm making these sacrifices, but in that season of life, it was heavier for me to not be a single parent. I can be unhappy because I can deal with my own happiness, I can create my own internal joy, but I could not stand the fact of like going certain places like, oh, she's a single mom, or we're going to school events or signing up for school things like, oh, what's your mother and father's name? They both have the first name and last name, Anita Stevens for a lot, so it was just those moments where, I kind of like suppressed like my own feelings towards what I was feeling in my marriage because I didn't want to be a single mom. And then years down the line, we had 2 more kids. We tried to work on a relationship, and it just never worked. I realized like, wow, it's time for me to make a move. I never wanted to do this in my life. So it was a season where I had to step on faith and say, I'm going to have to leave this person, and I'm going to have to be a single parent. And for me, it was hurtful because I never wanted to do that. I never wanted my kids to have to not be raised in a two-parent home. I just remember what it felt like, just not, if you got one person, you could piggyback on the other person. Whereas it doesn't, now that I know things, it doesn't necessarily mean that, because there's a lot of people that are married and they got 2 parents, and it's just like, you can't talk to either one of them, or you can't talk to one of them, or there's a separation altogether. So without having that bond, then it just doesn't make sense, But I will say that I never thought that I would be a single parent. But once I did become a single parent, life moved as consistent as it should have. I thought there would be a lot of gaps. I thought there would be a lot of problems. I had to create boundaries, which we spoke about in our last podcast. Boundaries were created, and we were able to eventually, didn't happen right away, but eventually we were able to co-parent very well. So we do that now. We co-parent all of our sons, which now we only have 1 left to co-parent. Our other 2 sons are older, so they don't require really parenting. Is more like you're there for support, and therefore, if they have
they're consultants.
Yeah, now they're consultants. So it's not like sometimes I want to pull out that mama badge. I'm like, hey, hold on now. I said what I said, but you put the mama badge up. But now it's easy. So now when I look back on it, and if I have to talk to other women that will say, oh, I'm so unhappy in the situation, which I have, or just where they're at in the space of life, because a lot of times women will stay in a relationship just because they don't want to be raising a kid by themselves. But when you think about it, you're raising a kid by yourself. You're the one that's getting up, taking them to school, getting them dressed, going to all the PTA events, going to all the other little outside events, sports and things like that. Because sometimes you have the husband or you have the wife, vice versa, it's not just female, that may be the solid foundation for finances. So they might be like, oh, well, I work all the time. I got to be at work XYZ time, so you go there. And I don't get off work till late, so you'll have to go to the sports event. So a lot of times when you're in the situation of relationship, you still will be a single parent. But it took the experience for me to experience that, to know like, wow, I always had that in my mind that I never wanted to do this. So that never life for me was like, at the end, it really didn't make sense, but you had experienced it to know.
And once you experienced, you realized that you were able to champion the never of wanting to be a single parent, but being a champion at single parenting.
Absolutely. Because I would definitely say I got a big old belt for being a single parent. Like I'd be proud of myself. So yeah, I would definitely say that. Yeah.
So we started with the nevers of life, and nobody wants to grow old, but the more life keeps shifting and changing, you just do what's right for you.
Absolutely. The moral of the story is that do what's right for you. Do a lot of times we know what's going on. We we feel in our gut, we feel our intuition. As women, we got to tap into that because it's true. You know, when we tap into it, you realize a lot. Like, wow, my intuition told me this. Oh, my gut told me this. Those are things that we receive from, you know, a higher power. They gave us that. That's a gift that we have. But a lot of times we're afraid to tap in that gift because we're afraid of what the outcome may be. But if we tap into it and we know and we feel it, like, tap into it and you'll move forward.
Yeah. But in tapping and moving forward, we have to also consider the opposite source, you know, like the devil will create all these things or say,
honey, he's busy.
He's masterful.
Yes, masterful, honey. He's busy.
Oh, no, you need to stay here. Oh, no, you need to do this. And then you begin to believe those lies.
Yes.
And then you don't take those chances and say, you know, God's will for your life is much more powerful, even though it doesn't always align. Like, I wanted to be done in 12 months, and God said, hold your horses. The rules say you got to do 18 months. And while you do these 18 months, I got you, girlfriend. Like, just chill.
Right.
Plan it out. And when the time is ready, it was like easy money. I got my license in January of 2018. Business was open same month, 2018, because I had already prepped that and was ready to go. So it can happen. We just have to really step out on faith and push forward.
Just push forward. Just tap in. Yeah. See, the thing was, you had rules, so that was good. I didn't have a rule. I was just going by what people would say, like, oh, you know, you don't want to be a single parent. You don't want to do this or by experience. So the rule helped you. That was good because I think you probably would have bounced around like, I'm out of here. Well, the rule caused you, you know, and it allowed you that time to tap in, and you understood then what you did not like. You didn't like to do that specialty of what he specialized in, and then you found out that you wanted to help minorities, you know, to deal with mental illness or just mental health or just anything that's dealing with the mental of your mind, that you know, you figured it out. Like, hey, I want to be able to help people. I want to do people of color.
Yes, that was my biggest champion of that. And also, what I didn't tell you was that internship was mandated clients. Like, they were mandated to come to therapy because they
that was an order from judge.
Order. It wasn't by choice.
Yes.
So when people are mandated to do things
10 times harder.
They're 10 times harder. They're resistant. They don't want to open. They don't want to do it. And so I will be held accountable for the client not showing up in therapy. But I'm like, I can't go knock on their door and be like, you supposed to be at therapy today, Anita. Where you at? Like, that's not my job. I wanted to be a very open forum. Like, if you feel like you had a session today and you just wasn't feeling it and you didn't want to come, I'm not going to chase you down because that is your choice. And then you come the next week and you say, well, I just didn't have the mental capacity to show up for my session last week. And I respect that. And then we create a new treatment plan and keep going.
Right.
I never make clients feel, like we like to say, feel some type of way.
Right.
But not like
mandated.
you're not mandated to do anything. It's a choice.
It's free will, yes.
Yes. And so if they choose not to come this week, it's fine. I don't keep score.
Yeah.
I just keep it going.
Man, the nevers of life, I'm sure that a lot of people have nevers of life. I can't wait to get some feedback on other people's nevers of life. So hopefully people will email us and send us some of their nevers of life.
Yeah, we'll share like our story, our thoughts, our opinions about it in an upcoming podcast.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan?
Yeah.
All right. So don't forget
to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, our lives, our stories, we all matter.